What's up, y'all? Welcome to Three Brothers and a Shot of Milk. Now, today I'm going to be doing another toy modification video. What am I modifying? This guy. The DC Multiverse, Superman vs. Doomsday, Gold Label, McFarlane 2-pack. Why am I modifying it? Because it's cool, but it could be better. Again, this is not going to be a toy review. If you want to see the review, go check out Lawrence St. Victor's toy review of this. He does a great job on the channel. This is going to be a toy modification. I want it to look more like the comic. I want a little more battle damage on Superman. And, Doomsday needs some texture too. It's a great base. I think it's a really good start. Without further ado, let's modify this junk. Alright, sorry for the glare. That'll go away once I got this out of the box. So right off the bat, you can tell by this picture, there's something else going on with this Doomsday action. Now, this isn't the original art. This is the kind of retelling. So let's check this out for half a second. Here's kind of our Doomsday look. And this is definitely stuff I want to add back in. These kind of pops of green on his jacket, his clothing, as he's coming apart from the battle. Superman's looking pretty intact. Then when we get to, this is a kind of a newer version of the book. My older versions still put away. Now, there is a DC, I believe it's DC Icon, DC Direct figure where the Superman looks like that. And if McFarlane had done that version of a Superman, oh boy. But what I am planning on doing is maybe getting a Dremel and cutting up his legs so it looks a little more like this, these gashes on him. I'm going to add some more battle damage. Maybe something like this guy's got going on would be cool on his side. And gonna add some more texture to the Doomsday. I don't think I'll be able to get his arms looking like this, but there might be a few things we can do to kind of cheat this Superman sculpt a little bit more. If nothing else, it'd be awesome to get him looking more like this. This is going to be our concept for the modification. See if we can get him looking where he's got like an exposed arm here and some rips on the other side, something on his legs. Let's see if we can get this Superman, instead of looking like scuffs and paint detail, like these are all just paint details. They're not even like cut into the figure. I want to see if we can get that guy looking more like this guy. That's going to be the goal. Can we get this guy looking more like that guy? In the Doomsday, I just want him to pop a little more. Let me get him to pop. Let me show you a few things. Let's open this guy up. I already cut the tabs, so it should come right out. Now, in Lawrence's video, he goes into pretty good detail on this toy review, so I'm not going to do that. But he did mention just how loose his figure was. And my figure is also incredibly loose, which could be pretty problematic when you're dealing with a guy of this size. I tell you this, though, the scale of the toy is pretty cool. Although the plastic diaper detail on this guy is less cool. Now, this is what I was talking about. This figure sculpt is new in some sections, but really just kind of retooled in others. Like the shoulders are modifications. It's almost like what McFarlane did is they took their Batman Devastator toy and they modified it, which is essentially what I had done with the Batman Devastator. And I modified the Batman Devastator to look more like Doomsday And they took their Batman their Batman Devastator toy, and you can see that they actually kind of did something a little similar. It's the same hand, and you can tell it's the same hand because it's the same arm. It still has the shirt that the Batman character was wearing right here on the arm, only they didn't color it in, which I don't know why they wouldn't just make it green, because his pants are green. Like, how much harder is it to make that green? I guess it is a little harder. So we're gonna come here and we're gonna get these layers of textured clothing to start popping. Gonna add some highlight and shadow over his sculpt to see if we can't get the detail in the actual texture, to the actual the actual figure to pop a little better, because it's all there. You see all the textures there, but once you kind of fill it in, you're gonna start getting, once you fill all this texture in, you're gonna start seeing the sculpt pop in just a different way, right? And so that's what I'm gonna do on this one, is just fill in all this texture. And the best way to do that is you kind of treat it like a forensic scientist, and you just lightly feather in a shadow or a highlight. In this case, it'll probably be a highlight, just to kind of hit all the ridges to get the darker texture to pop underneath it. I'll make the bone spurs a little more white. I'm gonna add some distressing to his pants. And you got funny ankles. All right, so like I said, not a toy review. Lawrence does a really good job of that. Go check it out. This is gonna be a modification video. So here's a little inspiration from the last one. Check out this. All right, so here's the Superman. He comes with 2 extra hands for flying and 2 open hands. You'd think he'd come with a hand that's a little more clenched. You know, something for punching. Luckily, I have a whole slew of hands, so I'll get a punching hand on here when I begin the modification. This cape, cool texture. It's pulled off of another figure. Again, Lawrence goes into that. I won't, but I might put the S on the back of his cape because, I mean, come on, y'all. It's really one of the most iconic images in Superman history. And how are you going to do a Superman Doomsday toy without the S on the back of the cape? But we'll see if we can put it on there. That will be a little harder to accomplish, but I'm optimistic. Huh. He's got some funny joints. Now they do have some texture on his boots, which are pretty good. We're gonna add texture everywhere. If he's gonna be battle damaged, let's make him battle damaged. Give him a little blood. He's got some blood on his lips here, blue in his hair. No cuts, no scuffs, so we're gonna add some cuts on his face. And the thing we're really gonna see if we can pull off, and this one's gonna be tough, is how do we kind of change up this portion to make it look like his shirt's ripped up. That's gonna be a challenge, but let's see if we can figure it out. Yeah, see, all this detail is just kind of painted on as opposed to sculpted in. And again, Lawrence goes into detail on that, so I'm not going to spend much time on it. What I am going to spend time on is fixing it. Otherwise, it's a pretty good looking sculpt. It's, you know, it's the Hush Superman kind of retooled. But I like that Hush figure, so I kind of don't mind that. Alright. I mind that he's not punching. If you're gonna do anything with Doomsday, you're gonna punch him. It's pretty cool though. Alright, let's start with Doomsday. He seems the more problematic of the two. So, 1 second here. I think we'll start with some white. This is just some cheap white I picked up at Walmart like 10 years ago. And it's just kind of, every now and again I get a chance to use it. You don't need much for what we're going to do here. And any kind of small soft bristle brush will work. Just gonna get a little on here, dab away, and see if we can't start making this bone look a little more spurred. So already, even without doing much, you can see how just adding that layer of texture, that little pop. I don't want to paint it white. I just want to see if I can get the texture to kind of raise off the figure. See? Protruding rib cage. Now, I will say, this figure does have a little more texture to the color palette than the other one did, which is nice. But even just these pops, little pops, are gonna help. All these little bone spurs. Feel like they're ripping out of his body. The Doomsday in the comic, and Lawrence points this out again in his video, he did have like bone spurs over his eyes, which is really cool little detail that could have been tossed on this figure and wasn't. Just too bad. It's alright. It's too bad. I think the coolest thing about this figure, now that I've got him in my hand, is definitely just the scale of him is nice in comparison to the other McFarlane toys. He's definitely a mega figure. It's Doomsday, man. He needs to be a mega figure. He needs to kind of dwarf over the scale of whatever toys he's playing against. Which is why I picked up the Injustice Doomsday, which is this scale. But the Injustice Doomsday, and I'll show you that guy in comparison to this guy in a minute. Injustice Doomsday just doesn't have the kind of texture you really want to find on a Doomsday. He's very clean. And I do like all this kind of gross, disheveled, nasty texture. It's freaking Doomsday, man. If anyone's gonna be dirty, it's gotta be Doomsday. We'll go back, we'll add some like blood and stuff. So we'll get his abs to pop a little bit. Get all this kind of cool texture. Now I've got almost no paint on the brush. So I'm doing a real light feather over it, but you see that it's just kind of raising, it's just raising all the sculpted texture off the image so you can kind of see it pop a little more. This is kind of one gripe with this figure. He is incredibly loose. He's so loose. I wonder if they're all like that. And like I said, Lawrence had kind of mentioned his being also pretty loose, so I assume they're all relatively loose. Yeah, I wonder if they're all a little loose. Now, Doomsday is not white. I don't want to make him white. But what I am trying to do is just get him to pop up a little bit. You know, he does have, he is kind of like this stone-ish gray color though. Almost like the Hulk's first appearance. The Hulk originally was not green, he was gray. And they felt like he wasn't really popping off the page, so they changed his color. The original Hulk was actually gray. He went back to being gray later. Anyway, Doomsday is kind of like that original gray color. A little bit of white on his nails here are going to help the blood stains kind of pop. Can't really give him, I mean, I guess that's pretty good. These should really be on his knees. It's like his knee joint popping out, but he does have the joint, so beggars can't be choosers. He does hit Superman pretty good with that knee in the comics, so we'll bloody that up. Get these knuckles bloodied up. And obviously his elbow. Elvis. As my fight instructor, Felix Ivanov, used to say, Elvis. can't get over how silly his hair looks. They put it too high. That hair moved. I see how, okay, so here's what I'm thinking. I'm wondering if I can cut his hair off and move it to the back of his head, which should just be a way better spot for it. Like, it looks like it's in this weird ponytail. Look at this. This is driving me crazy. His hair on the top of his head looks like it's in this weird ponytail. And his hair was not in a ponytail in the comics. I mean, it was, he had the hair. Don't get me wrong, he had hair, but it wasn't in a ponytail. It was just like wild. So I'm wondering if we can cut this and move it to the back of his head. It bothers me so much, I'm gonna do it right now. So I'm going to gently, as not to hurt myself, I'm going to cut his hair up and then try to make a really surgical incision. So, see if I can do it without cutting my fingers off in a way where you can kind of see what's happening here. Kind of scrape this up, because I'm pretty sure this is just glued on in the first place. Scalping Mr. Day. All right. Boom. Here's his hair, which I hate, but I think if he's gonna have it, it should be on the back of his head. Well, let's see if moving it to the back of his head helps. If it doesn't help, I've got a whole nother idea for this stuff. So, now, I'm gonna put his head back on. Now, he already looks less dainty. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's scarier with the bald head. Look at that ponytail. I think that ponytail is silly. But if we're gonna have it, let's move it back here. I'm wondering if these strands don't come apart a little more too. So, like, check this out. Wonder if we can open up his hair so it's a little wilder. Since I'm already playing with the knife here. I just open up this thing a little bit. I guess not too much, huh? When playing with a knife, you always want to cut away from yourself. So, as you see, I'm kind of cutting towards myself. That is a really bad thing to do. Pray avoid it. Anyway, there's a little more life to his hair. I'm going to come back to that hair and see if we can't almost wants to be like look at this. Here's our proof of concept for Doomsday and his hair. So yeah, it's definitely not in a ponytail, and it's wild. That's right after he hits Supergirl. So I think we're gonna go for more like just disgusting straggles on the back of the head, right? Definitely got boots on. It's a ponytail. Boom. Man. So this is what Lawrence and I are talking about. See these bone spurs kind of blocking his eyes? What a sick detail. Sick little detail. So we want that wild hair, but not in a ponytail. I don't know why you put in a ponytail. And it's definitely white. I mean, his hair is white. So let's go ahead and just preemptively make this thing a little more white. It's like, there's no life in his body. That's why it's so gray. That's gonna be better. You still got some of that other color under there, so there's a pop, but that white's gonna be a little better. Now, I'm not 100% sure I'm even gonna keep this. Might either split it up entirely and do a little more like what's in the comic, and he's just got like splots of it coming out, or I might just go get some hair off of something else and actually let him have some white waspy hair up here. To be determined. In the meantime, let's add a little texture to his face. Texture pop. Now I will say McFarlane did a good job sculpting this guy's face. The bone spurs on his eyes would have been nice, but it's not bad. It's pretty good. It's funny they gave him like bloodshot eyes. He does have blue eyes in the comic, which I kind of forgot. He's almost never drawn with blue eyes. All right, that's pretty good first little texture pop on Doomsday. It's not great, but we'll continue to add detail as we go. I think the next thing I want to do is add the ripped clothes and some detail on his pants. So drop him in the water for a moment, and let's pick out this green. This is the green I used on the Devastator, this lighter green, which I really like for this. But the Devastator started out with a black-blue color palette, so it kind of looked good. So I don't know what that's going to look like on this. So let's start with this slightly darker army green. If we don't like it, we can always go to the other one. I think this green's going to be just fine. don't mind this green. It's gonna need some work. It's not great, but it's kind of like this muted army color green, which is kind of cool. I think the green he's actually using is probably closer to the comic. I think this is going to work nice. And again, I'll get a coat on it, then I'll add some texture. It's going to feel a little more worn and beat up, which is appropriate for, you know, battle damaged. Yeah, that's cool. That definitely helps. And let's just douse his suit with some of this so it feels a little more blended. I'm just kind of doing a little wash over all the green with this kind of muted green. How bright everything is. Kind of dull it up a bit. I'll probably just do like a gray wash over a lot of everything too. The same will be true with the Superman. They call that distressing it. Like we want to distress the figure a little bit so he's going to feel more battle damaged and worn out. And usually you use like, you know, charcoal, burn umber, brown, blacks to kind of distress a thing. And so we'll go back and we'll do that. It's also going to help with all the texture on his boots and stuff. Cool. I kind of dig that. As a matter of fact, let's distress him now. Well, should we add? I want to see what some of this green looks like. This might be a mistake. This might be a mistake. I don't exactly mind that a little bit. It's a brighter green, just kind of like the sun's catching it a little bit. It kind of works. It's the opposite of what we just did. Like we just put a muted color on it. Now we're putting a brighter color on it. And the base tone is kind of like just a deep green. But layers of color tend to kind of be cool together anyway. I think we get some brown on here, or gray. I guess gray's gonna be good. And I think I want to darken that up a little bit. We'll mix some black into it. Oh, maybe not. This black might be totally frozen. There's all gotta be pretty. And let's get rid of some of this green. Let's rinse them out. Like little black, little gray, mixing it up. Black and gray. It's gonna be kind of a charcoaly wash, and I do want it to be a wash, so I'm gonna water it down considerably. And let's see what effect that has. Now really what I need here, this is pretty good actually. I like that. Because he's still got all the green in there, and we go through and brighten it up here. But this is gonna feel nice and distressed. It's like a wash. And that's gonna look really good on his boots, I'm a bet. Yeah. And what you can do, if it's feeling a little heavy and you're just kind of trying to do a wash over it, like I'm not trying to paint, I want to do just kind of like distress this thing down a bit. After you got it on there, you can take a rag and just kind of dab it a little bit. So see how we're just kind of adding a dirty tone to it. I wonder, I probably shouldn't be using this green brush because it's going to add a little green to spots that I don't want green. So this is really gonna look good in the crevices. Usually what you want to do, and I'm kind of doing this a little backwards, you want to get the darker tones on first, and then you want to go in and get all the lighter tones on here. But what this is gonna do is, see how porous his shoulder is? Right here. Add some of this in here. It's gonna just kind of really enrich, again, the texture and detail that's already in the toy. And that's kind of what I want to do with this wash. I want to get in the crevices, and so I'm watered down enough where it's just gonna kind of seek those kind of darker spots and add just a little more texture overall. I mean, if you're gonna take the time to modify a toy in the first place, why not, right? Also gonna help that green to pop up around it. Yeah, Look, his shoulder's starting to look pretty cool. This is that texture I'm always talking about, Chris. Texture. This is good. See if we can get a little more of this kind of wash going. I want to be careful not to really paint this on. It's so dark, but I want to get it in there. Oh, so that wants to be kind of like green. Of course, it could be bone spur, but I know that is a residual from the Devastator toy. Those two streaks. But whatever. It's kind of okay. Toys just don't come with this kind of texture, though. Now, a lot of this is just gonna innately be the starting point for the Superman distressing, who really wants to feel just beat up. I mean, they both do. The consequences of this fight, pretty devastating, though. Get a little more detail on these hands. That grit and grime under the fingernails. That's cool. Again, we'll probably go back in and add a little more highlight just over the top of these ridges. And should have kind of done all the shadows first. Whatever, it's all just texture and texture on top of texture, and it'll be all right. Point is, it wants to feel dirty and beat up, like they've been drugged through the mud and in 6 different explosions and trading blows with the most powerful being on Earth. Also, by this point, Superman had blasted him with freaking high doses of heat vision a few times, so some of these bone spurs be a little charred up. I mean, Doomsday's gonna be pissed. It's definitely looking better. Now, let's go back to some of this white. That's a good looking Doomsday. Alright, so I'm thinking I might be able to dunk this guy in some hot water and pull out his arm joint and swap it with this arm joint. I think it's going to be worth the try. These guys are all kind of just plug and chug. I'll be back in a moment. Give me just a second of patience. Alright, so I think this worked out pretty well. Obviously the skin tone is different, so what I'm going to try and do now is just bridge the gap between the two of them. These just pop out, and if you just soak the top torso in some hot water, you should have no trouble getting it on and off. So let's check this guy out real quick. This color is a little fleshier. It's a little closer. Good. Better. A little better. And again, we're going to add distressing and texture all this, so pretty much works. I'm going to let that dry up a little bit before I try to cram. Well, you know what? I'm not. I'm just going to cram it back in and see what happens and touch it up. Boom. Alright, so I changed this color palette a little bit to help tie these in. It's already looking a little better. Let's see if we can get good. Now that we're kind of controlling his skin tone, we can get those two gashes in his leg that he had in the comic, remember? This guy. This is gonna be great. Oops. Alright, now what I want to do is, I've added in all these, the battle damage. I want to go back in and see if I can make his costume pop a little bit. So, let's do a test here. looking pretty good. Now, let's add a little bit more blood on there. I mean, if McFarlane had dropped something like this, wow. So this is looking pretty good. Sorry, my phone died there, so I had to charge it up. Now, there's only a couple things I want to do left on my list. One is I still want to see if I can put the S on the back here. So let me reimagine the space for a moment. Let's get some yellow. That looks good. This don't need to be great. It just needs to be on. Now, also, oops, what's gonna make it a little challenging is obviously the ripple in the cape. So I'm not really gonna stress that too much. And I think I wanna be a little higher, but I'm gonna go right under this ridge. I think that'll be fine. Keep in mind, it is a pentagonal shield, meaning it's got 5 sides. You know, this would have been easier for McFarlane just to put back here than me trying to paint it on. But that's alright, I don't mind the challenge. Now, the S on the back is entirely gold or yellow, in my opinion. It's different than the S on the front, which is yellow and red. Always like the S on the back being different because it is an accent. This looks a little funny, but it's gonna look a little funny because, you know, again, the ripple don't look bad. It's a little low. I think we can clean it up a bit. See if we can get a little more. Maybe straight across here and down. It feels like it's in that wave of the cape. It's not bad. I think we're gonna have to let this dry up a bit. Get a second layer on. But even in this stage, I might want to start figuring out that S. Doesn't need to be perfect, but it needs to be there. All right, now I'll let that dry up. Again, it's not great, but it's there, and I'll put the S on it in just a moment. Let that dry up in the meantime. Well, and in the meantime, there are 2 more things I want to try to accomplish with this Doomsday. meantime, 2 more things I want to accomplish with this Doomsday. A couple more things. A little more shading to get that blood to kind of filter back in. It's nice that it's there, but it's a little funny in spots. These bandings in the comics are metal. They're restraints. So I want to take this little brush here. I'll take this little brush right here and hit it with a little metallic. This color is a little, I mean, it's a lot darker than what's currently on there, but I think it's going to help this thing feel a little more appropriate. In the comic, it's a silver gray color, but it is definitely metallic in the comics. So, see if we can get this popping in a slightly metallic way. Now that's got a metallic sheen to it, is nice. I don't know about this belt detail being in the comics, but he did have something in the comics. It almost looked more bone-ish. Bone in a lot of the shots. It was like white, but okay, cool. Let's just kind of go with the same idea here. Just make it metal. Metallic. Great. It fits into the color palette a lot better since I've changed it up here. Yeah. That looks a lot better. A lot better. All right, now one more kind of big detail. Now it is nice. He does stand. I mean, this Doomsday McFarlane figure don't mind standing up. Now, just one more pass of yellow. It's good. Good. All right, I think we can be done with the yellow. All right, now this Doomsday. There is Still, the issue of his hair. I'm actually gonna cut this even further back so I have so I have no ponytail to deal with at all. Less to no ponytail. Here we go. Boom. So, cut the ponytail off entirely there. And if it's coming anywhere, it's like, it's back there. Yeah, that's meaner. As a matter of fact, that's pretty good. Actually, that's pretty good. Wow, look at this. I'm gonna move the camera. That's pretty good. I have the hair, but don't have it in a ponytail. Have the hair, but not in a ponytail. Ooh, okay, so now what I'm gonna do, kind of see what I'm going for here. This is gonna work. He's got a very specific spot that I can kind of get this in. What I need to do is shape this cut so it kind of matches the curve of his head a little bit. Which means I just need to round it out, right? Just gonna round it off just a smidge. Right. I think that's gonna work. Yo, I think that's gonna work. Now the other thought I had was dividing the hair into chunks and kind of like spreading it out. But I actually do like this. I like the kind of clumped up section. Just the ponytail, man. What were you thinking, McFarlane? What were you thinking? So, if you do this with a knife like I'm doing, definitely be careful so you don't hurt yourself. The trick I have found is use a sharp knife, because often a sharp knife is going to give you a little more control of the cut, whereas a dull knife tends to lag and hang up, and that's when you tend to get little accidents that you want to avoid. And I want it more like there. More like that. Like he's in motion. Okay, now, here's what I'm gonna do. Just a little liquid super glue here. And this should work. Oh. Crazy. Okay. Here we go. It's already a thing. Well, this stuff works pretty quick. So let's count 25. Wash eyes for 15 minutes if you got a problem. I think this stuff's pretty much already set up. Now, super glue works so quick. What I am going to do is add a little glue around the edges to kind of layer it up a bit in case it gets knocked. It's just a little more fortified. Boom. 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 The face, only a mother can love. I'll go back in and kind of fix all that. Let's get under here. There you go. I would call that a great improvement. I mean, just a great improvement. That one little thing alone fixes almost the whole toy. The shadow, the highlight, all that's great. But that one little fix the ponytail thing, and suddenly the whole toy works. I don't know what they were thinking with the ponytail. Like what, Doomsday stopped to get his hair done? They're nuts. Now that looks sick. I'm gonna move the camera. Alright. Alright, let's clean this workstation up just a little bit so we can see what we're dealing with. That's a pretty damn good looking Doomsday. I'm not gonna lie, that is a pretty damn good looking Doomsday. Needs a little more work on the shadowing and highlight to kind of blend in that for the red, but as far as going back to source material, this looks pretty good. Pretty good. It feels right. And then, you know, this Superman is now looking like he's been through quite the battle. Swapped out that arm, repainted, added all this stuff. That definitely helps. See if we can get an S on the back here. This is the S we're kind of going for, right? That classic gold. Yes. Ooh, shoot, sorry. One thing we can start with is just kind of outlining this. Gently. This is a little more challenging than it usually is. Yep, I kind of messed that up. That's alright though. You're gonna get the idea. It's alright, you get the idea. It's not... it's not great. Not gonna lie, it's not great. It's even perhaps bad. But you know what, McFarlane? At least it's there. At least he's got an S on the back here. So, there you go. Superman Doomsday. Remember, this is what we were trying to go for with the Superman. Cuts on the arm, ripped here, ripped up. The leg gashes, arm, battle damage. This is what we ended up ending with, which I gotta say is a great improvement to where we began. And Doomsday it's also come a long way. Might go and like I said, add one more shade of color before I'm personally finished, but I think this concludes the video. You know, seeing how well this paint worked on the body, it would be possible to kind of go in and add more ripped up clothing effect. But I'm really pretty pleased with how this turned out. All right, well, I don't think it'd be fair to end this video without doing a little comparison. So this was the Doomsday I modified from the Batman Devastator toy that came with that 2-pack Superman and Batman. And so I modified the Batman to look like Doomsday. And you'll see that like I was talking about, a lot of those pieces are actually on this McFarlane figure. So the same arms. There are obviously some differences. You can see boots for one, shorts. The suit was just torn up, which is a really cool effect. I like that a lot. And I wish this had some like torn clothing across the chest. The faces are different. The sculpt is different. The mechanics of the mouth is similar, and the shoulder blades are different. The mechanics of the mouth and the sculpt is different. This is cool. I actually really like the way this guy turned out. And then this Doomsday is from the Injustice line. His mouth stays open, but he does come with a series of heads you could swap out. His ponytail is braided and black hair. Based off the video game. I don't like the build of this guy better. He's got a lot of soft plastic. His whole upper body is soft. His pants are soft here in the middle section, and they lay funny. He's got cool texture. Obviously, it's a departure from the comic, and no shoes. So he's an interesting Doomsday. And you know, if I'm being honest, this guy is a real good blend of the two of these. Obviously, this one, again, wasn't a Doomsday to start out with, but it kind of was. And this guy, after being modified, really kind of ticks all the boxes pretty well. I wasn't going to buy him. There were so many things I didn't like about him originally, but now that I've kind of fixed him up, he's probably my favorite. There's something about this guy, his stature being so compact, he feels just very aggressive, almost like a tank. Where this guy has a slightly more streamlined physique, but it's so comic book accurate on so many levels. The only other Doomsday in my collection that's worth showing is this guy, which was from the DC Signature Collection line. And obviously he's in the suit entirely. Never felt right taking this guy out of the box. Just a cool figure. But that's what he looks like before his suit gets damaged. And so you can see how, you know, the textures and the detail on this guy are pretty comic book accurate as far as what he looked like when he was coming out of the ground for the first time. And you see that reminiscent here, the bands around the legs, He's in combat boots, and I guess I should go back and make that silver. Although his boots actually weren't, they were just kind of green. So this is an odd texture, but I like it, it's cool. And then, you know, he's got wiring and cabling and stuff like that. So, and all that got torn off in the battle. All right, so that's my Doomsday modification, and we saw how Superman turned out. Superman turned out pretty great. Really happy with him. As you guys know from previous videos, I did modify my Eradicator. Again, I got to thank Lawrence for this. I got the head off of that Multiverse Superman where he's Russian. So I took that head and gave him a little pair of glasses And I thought that was far more appropriate for the 90s Eradicator. And then in a different video I'll drop later, but here's a sneak peek. I made myself a McFarlane cyborg out of some other Superman figures I had floating around, which still needs a little work, but I'm pretty happy with how he's turning out so far. Obviously, I got the Superboy. Shoot, while I'm here, I might as well pull him out. And again, I modified Superboy a little bit, gave him a different head sculpt because I didn't really like the head he had originally. And I'm missing Steel. I'm waiting for McFarlane to drop that Steel figure they had teased, and as soon as I got that, I've got the bunch of them. Of course, I've got Superman in the black also, but I'll pull that out when I get the whole team assembled. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, leave a comment, definitely helps. And until then, see you next time.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to Three Brothers and a Shot of Milk.